I'm going to do a roll call here of the planning board members. I'm just going to start going around by who I see on the screen. So Emily Ash.
Here.
George Tlemcen.
Here.
David Chichester.
Here.
Natty Hussey.
Here.
Mark Maloney. Mark doesn't appear to be here. Amy McMahon, alternate. Amy's not here. So David, if it's okay with you, I'm going to raise you to from an alternate status to a voting member.
Yes.
Sounds good. Okay, great. First order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes from April 21st, 2022. Any discussion on that from members of the board? George?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that. Any further discussion on the minutes?
Just one minor thing in the first page under the deliberation about the sign section of the ordinance at the next to last sentence, or third from the last sentence. The last word says misused, and what I had said was overused. That was part of the discussion, and it was about using time and temp, flashing back and forth, that kind of a thing. So my intention was overused. I remember I said that.
Not misused.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
I did change that, George.
In this version, it still says misused. So I just wanted to thank you, though, Dave.
Okay. Great. Thanks. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was that a unanimous vote? Any abstentions? Noes? Okay, the ayes have it. Eric, please record a unanimous vote on that. Our next order of business is a site plan review, application 66 Greenfield LLC Patel for property located at 184-192 Shelburne Road, Assessor's Map 45, lots 22 and 24, which is located in the General Commercial Zoning District for the site plan review pursuant to sections 204.9 B15, 208.4 of the zoning ordinance in order to allow the construction of new 34-room addition to the existing hotel and the construction of a new parking lot on the 192 Shelburne Road parcel. I have an ongoing professional relationship with Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group. This is just a disclosure. It doesn't in any way keep me from, has nothing to do with this project and won't keep me from being fair and impartial, but I need to just put that out there. If anybody has any kind of issues or questions, please let me know. Okay, hearing none there, thank you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation of the project?
Sure. Sorry, I'm just trying to navigate myself here and get organized. So Jeff Squire from the Berkshire Design Group here on behalf of 66 Greenfield LLC. The property and project is, otherwise known as the Hampton Inn parcel at associated at 184 Shelburne Road, and this is the adjacent parcel at 192. Sorry. So if I can share my screen, I can run through a real quick presentation and then open up to any questions.
I think I can assign you privileges, but you might have to release them once I give them to you.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm just.
Is that?
Yeah. Thank you.
Does that work?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Everybody can see that. Okay, great. So, so the property, the map is oriented a little bit differently, but so the property that we're talking about is this 184 parcel, which is the Hampton Inn. The roundabout is located roughly where my cursor is, based on the ortho image. Shelburne Road comes down and dead ends here as Wheeler Brook comes down and through some commercial parcels and under 91. So this pertains to the 184 parcel and this adjacent parcel at 192 Shelburne Road, which currently contains a single-family home, detached garage, and shed structure. It's about a little bit more than a third of an acre. zoned in the general commercial district. And so the proposal is to demolish the single family home and all the structures on that site. Again, just real quickly looking at some of the existing context. So starting up here in the upper left-hand corner, this is the end of the existing Hampton Inn parcel or building. The project really is in this area in the foreground, and then just to the right, again, looking at that end of the building and that parking lot that will be affected by this project. This is along Wheeler Brook to the right in the lower left image here. Hotel is to the left. And then lastly, in the lower right-hand corner is that single family home at the 192 parcel with Shelburne Road here cutting across the lower portion of the image. The proposal is to construct a new 4-story addition that would match the existing hotel, again, demolish the existing structures and buildings on the 192 parcel, and both reorganize and provide additional parking for that addition, which would contain a total of, and I think the application actually said 36 rooms. It's corrected that should be corrected to 24 rooms. So this is a 24-room addition on what is existing parking right now. You can see in this image up here that area currently is occupied by primarily parking area. This hopefully, can everybody see this rendering?
Yep.
This should give you just real quick idea of the current or the proposed layout for the site, that this ingress and egress off of Shelburne Road would remain the same. We primarily cut off access through this area where the addition is proposed. All of this remains as currently as it is. There's a portico and drop off at the main entrance on the other end of the building here. We are providing additional handicap spaces because of the additional parking in compliance with mass regulations and AAB regulations in the area that there's currently accessible parking spaces. And then we're providing a new curb cut onto Shelburne Road on that 192 parcel to access this parking lot and provide circulation in and throughout the site. We are connecting existing sidewalks and providing new sidewalks where necessary to get around this addition and navigate through the site. Accessible curb ramps and curb cuts to facilitate access into the building entrances. And then currently there's a dumpster location out close to Shelburne Road, roughly where my cursor is now. That is all being relocated to the rear of this 192 parcel so that vehicles can come in easily. Get out and navigate through the site. It's not at the forefront of the property, and this will all be converted to green space. Whatever isn't green space now will be converted to green space. There are no new utilities proposed as part of this, insofar as sanitary and water connections. All those will be serviced from the existing building, from within inside the existing footprint. The only thing that we are providing is new stormwater infrastructure, which you can see is located. We're providing a subsurface system on the 192 parcel to accommodate the additional impervious area as a result of that parking lot construction that is going through a treatment chamber and being and addressing all of the stormwater standards. We have provided stormwater documentation to the DPW, received a connection permit already. We are reducing the overall runoff to the existing stormwater system, which also has its own treatment chamber over where the existing entrance is off of Shelburne Road. But all that has been reviewed and approved. There is one existing site light that is located roughly where my cursor is now at the end of the existing building. We're simply proposing to relocate that to the center island. There will be no other new lighting proposed. There's enough lighting that currently exists on the site and ambient lighting to safely light this parking lot. We are, there is no new signage proposed other than general directional signage as part of this entrance and exit. There are no new building signs or ground signs that are proposed. And then lastly, I guess traffic would be the other piece to touch on, that that our cover letter noted that there would be, you know, obviously an increase in traffic in the daily trips. We had estimated that there were I'm sorry, 20.4 trips in and out during the peak hour. This was based on 32 rooms. So that number would go down. I think that drops down to 17 trips in and out at the peak hour. But certainly minimal increase per hour, and certainly within the capabilities of Shelburne Road to handle that additional traffic at those hours. We did provide an updated site plan that we are looking at now, which again just clarified the number of accessible spaces that are being provided to ensure that we had enough to conform to 80 requirements for the overall site and parking number. Again, we provided some documentation as to the parking requirements. This is being very slow. But there are, given the corrected number of 24 rooms, there's a total of 97 parking spaces that are required given the guest rooms and the 200 square foot meeting space, convention space. There's 107 spaces that are provided overall. With the increase in parking lot to the north there. I don't think I have anything else to highlight. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I can stop sharing for the moment and entertain any other questions. The only other thing I would add is we did receive Conservation Commission approval about a month ago for work within jurisdictional resource areas. So this is the last stop.
Charles, you're muted.
You're muted, Charles.
People could see my lips moving, but they couldn't hear me say anything. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, could you just, I know you just shut off your screen, but could you just discuss briefly the landscaping requirements in parking lots in Greenfield and how you are in conformance with those general guidelines for parking lots?
Sure, and I can share, let me see. So I must admit I'm a little bit unsure of what the specific requirements are for parking lots. We are providing, as I said, green space along the entirety of Shelburne Road, particularly where we're closing that existing curb entrance, providing new shade trees. There's at least 4 new shade trees proposed within the 192 parcel, as well as the relocation and proposal of some new shade trees and ornamental trees around the building. And then again, the area primarily in front of the new addition facing Shelburne Road will all be converted to green space, which includes a number of shrub plantings, and I imagine there'll be a number of perennial plantings in there as well to augment the rest of the property.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to just go down the line here with just ask the board if they have any questions. I guess does anybody from the board have any questions specifically they want to address, or?
Yes, I do.
Okay, David.
It's not clear to me what the walking pattern, the walking path would be from the new parking lot to the entrance to the hotel. Could you just kind of point that out with your cursor? And also, uh, I I didn't notice where the lights are. How well lit is the entrance approach from the new parking lot to the front entrance?
So I'll address the first question with respect to, access to the building and pedestrian access. So, oops, I'm sorry. Too far. So what's being proposed is there's an existing sidewalk that runs along this elevation of the building that terminates in different places right now. We're going to extend and provide an accessible, curb ramp at this location. There's a service entrance here, as well as extend this island so that people do have the ability to get up and get onto this sidewalk. This parking lot and the way people would get to these, sidewalks in particular, is just like any other, shopping center or shopping plaza where, depending on what cars are parked in place and what paths are available, they would just have to navigate through the parking lot to get to whatever location they're aiming for. This is also, these are not parking spaces along this edge of the peninsula there, if you will, so that people, can certainly get up here in a number of ways and locations, but it's no different than any grocery store or any other, larger parking lot. With respect to lighting, there's a number of pole lights now. Let me see if I can, there are a number of lights on the parcel now. It's a fairly well lit site, especially given its location. So there's an existing pole light in this location where the where the building addition is going. That's going to be relocated up to the new parking lot to those center islands. There already is existing lighting in other locations around that sufficiently light the site. So there will be, entrance lighting and emergency lighting associated with the new addition, sufficiently to light that landscape and that space directly, adjacent to the building. This new light will, certainly take care of, any lighting concerns in the, in the new parking lot. There are, there's also, lights in these locations that light up this area, whether it's on the property or not. So we're comfortable that there's sufficient lighting.
Thank you. Charles, you
Anyone else from the board? Any comments?
Yeah, I had a question. Jeff, can you, maybe you went over this in the inclusion of the new egress, which is currently on the to be demolished property. Are there currently 2 egresses onto Shelburne Road? Would this just be simply the relocation of the egress so that the property was accessible from 2 locations on Shelburne?
I think I understand your question. So the one curb cut that exists now, well, let's see. There's one curb cut that exists on Shelburne Road for the 184 parcel where the hotel currently exists. That's not changing. What is changing is to on the 192 parcel, there's an existing driveway at the sort of tail end of the parcel. We're simply relocating it to the north so that there is the ability to navigate in and throughout the building, around the building and back onto the onto Shelburne Road.
Is this intended to be a one-way, meaning there's an entrance and then an exit, or are they both
They're both two ways, yes, yes, they're both two ways.
And the expectation is that on the south side of the property, near the entrance, and near the parcel that currently holds I believe it's a 99, that is still an entrance to the property as well.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
George or Emily, any questions or comments?
Yes, thanks, Charles. Related to the traffic flow issue, the narrow connection between the proposed new parking area and the main entrance to the building, is that a one-way?
Are you speaking about this location here?
Yes.
Well, it's a good question. It's a 12-foot wide, drive, so it certainly functions better as a two-way. I think given the amount of traffic through there, it is an existing drive now. You could certainly facilitate two-way traffic, but it's certainly not ideal. I think it was primarily there as part of the original site plan to facilitate, emergency access to the back of the building.
So there's not a plan to designate a specific direction for it at this point?
Not currently, no. It would function just like it does now, but
Though there'd be a lot more cars on the that side of the hotel than there are now. Having walked it today, it seemed quite narrow. So
Yeah.
it was just.
and I don't disagree with the comments about it being narrow, obviously constrained by the property line. I think the hope was that, obviously this larger ingress and egress directly onto Shelburne Road from the parking lot would, encourage people to go in that direction rather than trying to, weave through a number of other parking lots to get out. So it certainly wasn't ignored. I will say that.
And you said 12 feet. That's the entire width?
I believe that's the entire width. I'd have to confirm that with.
Yeah, it looks like 12 feet.
Yeah.
When you think about sort of a natural flow, like a car is going to come in. I know people can't see my cursor, but cars are going to come in from, I guess, from the north, and they're going to come through that Port Cochere area, and they're going to naturally kind of circulate around the southern edge of the site, back out onto to Shelburne Road, and then come back into the new parking lot. That's my guess for how people who are checking in will access that parking lot. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of traffic necessarily flowing in that direction anyway. But we could request that it become designated one way, I suppose, if we wanted to. If we thought it was a safety concern.
There's not a lot of people wouldn't be getting up a lot of speed, but it just looks pretty awkward. It seems like it would be hard for cars coming in each direction to manage it. And if, as you're saying, Charles, someone were dropping off at the main entrance and then accessing the new parking area, it would seem to make sense to go around the hotel briefly onto Shelburne Road, which has virtually no traffic. It's just a little dead end stub, and then come back into that other parking.
Right.
But I don't know if that would be intuitively obvious without some signage. Because we can see it looking at it overhead, but if you're driving, I don't know how clear that would be.
I don't know. I've stayed in a lot of hotels where you're going, where's the parking? And you just drive around until you find it. This is kind of and you get directions from the check-in desk where to park. Just kind of pick up on it.
It just strikes me it'd be wiser to have that designated as a one-way. And I think you'd want it as a one-way toward the entrance from the new parking again to do a drop-off and then circle the hotel and go back to the parking. That's just my perception of it. It just seemed like such a tight squeeze.
Is the applicant willing to consider something like that?
I don't see any reason why not, but I can't speak for the applicant.
The other folks on the board
It should be
share that?
fine.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And there's Jeff, are there any lights being proposed for the on the new building, the addition? Any kind of mounted lights on the building?
That's a good question, Charles. I don't know. I mean, I imagine they would mimic whatever is, on the existing building. The elevations, the building style and materials and, overall appearance are going to match, the existing building. So I know there are a couple of, there's at least an entrance on the Shelburne Road end, that would have, an entrance or light at the doorway, obviously. But I don't imagine there's going to be anything, any more significant than what's on the existing building.
Right. I guess we could just make a note that any new lighting applied to the building is all shielded and dark sky compliant and consistent with, lighting in the rest of the building, assuming it meets those requirements.
Yep.
Any other comments, George?
Yes, but I don't want to get in front of anybody else on the board who has questions, but regarding the foliage, I just wanted to double check. It seems clear about, thank you, putting that back up, about the newly added. I just wanted to confirm that there are several pine trees along within there, exactly there, and behind the Days Inn, essentially.
Right.
And there were also on what had been the border with this property, a lot of mature arborvitae. And I just want to confirm, are those all being taken down?
Unfortunately, they do need to be taken down. Yeah, I mean, the arborvitae obviously are, right in the center of the project, so we're going to be tough to save. And then a lot of the pines, a lot of that sort of evergreen screening edging along the 192 property, a lot of those are, get to an age or to a state where, probably could benefit to be taken down anyway. But so I those are all coming down.
Thank you. One last question, Charles.
Sure.
Another regarding parking is in the checklist for the site plan submission checklist. Bicycle parking is checked off, but I searched and searched and I couldn't find it on the site plan.
It is right, and I apologize. It's connected with the existing, entrance and main, main entrance to the hotel. We didn't call that out or detail that specifically with this, plan. There are facilities for bike parking out there. We can clarify that as a condition if the board chooses. But yeah, I apologize for not clarifying that more.
Thank you. There aren't currently bicycle parking facilities
out in front.
Correct.
Well, maybe I misspoken. I was under the impression there were bike racks out there now, but if not, can certainly be part of a condition.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else spotted them. I didn't see them when I walked through. So okay. Thanks.
Anything else from the board? Are we ready to entertain a motion?
I make a motion to approve the plan with the addition of the one-way on the east side of the property, as well as the addition of the bicycle racks as discussed.
And the condition of the lighting being in conformance, right?
Yes.
And the one way is in the east west
Southerly
west?
direction.
The southerly direction. Oh, this isn't north or up? No, this is probably north.
Yeah. Sorry.
North to the right. Yeah. So it's one way north to south.
Right.
I'll second.
All right, great. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain? No, nays? The ayes have it. It's a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yes, you as well.
Okay, now we have some ZBA recommendations here to consider. The first is application of PV squared for property located at 382 Adams Road, Assessor's Tax Map R07 Lot 3, which is located in the Rural Residential Zoning District for a special permit pursuant to sections 204.2 C17, 207.16, and 208.3 of the zoning ordinance in order to allow the installation of an 8.1 kilowatt DC ground mounted PV array consisting of 18 panels at this location. Is the applicant here to make a presentation?
I am. And the
Great,
homeowner is
please.
here as well.
Oh, great. Yeah. So if you could just please state your name and address for the record.
Madeline Geschwind, PV Squared is at 311 Well Street in Greenfield. And Dan Carew is the homeowner. Dan, if you want to state your address.
Yep, just finding the unmute button. So Dan Carew, 382 Adams Road.
Great. Thank you.
I am also going to go ahead and share if that's okay. I don't know if you
Yes,
guys have, do you guys
please.
have copies of the site plan ahead of you, in
Yes.
front of you?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll still share, so bear with me 1 second. Okay. Okay, this is a little bit different than Meet, so it looks like I share per program. Okay. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I just lost you. I apologize. Hold on.
We're here.
Okay. All right. Sorry, it's a little different. I'm used to Meet, so it's slightly like it acts a little bit differently. Okay, so yeah, as you mentioned, we're putting in our plan is to put an 8.1 kilowatt DC solar array at the address of 382 Adams Road in Greenfield. Consists of 18 panels total, so it's actually 9 columns, so it's 2 rows. This is a similar ground mount. This one is actually 1 panel wider, so it would be just a little bit narrower. The array itself is about 31.5 by 13, so 31 kind of long. If it was on the ground, think of a rectangle. Can you see my cursor?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So 31.5 this way, 13.5 this way, but it's only about 9.6 feet off the ground in the back. So from the top, this is the house right here. And then they've got a lovely garden, and then it would actually be here in the backyard. The closest house is their neighbor here. If you see the property line there, I don't know if you can see it, it's kind of a light purple. Closest corner would be about 40 feet from it. So we're well set back there. I can show you, so there's no wetlands around. I don't know if you want to see a picture so you can kind of picture. If you had driven by, you wouldn't have seen it from the road. That makes sense. So this is kind of looking down on it. This is kind of right in front. You can see the flag right here, and it would go this way. Flag is right here now. There'd be minimal disturbance when we're installing it. Basically, there'd be 2 things happening. First, that would happen is we would install these. They're called the screws here, and that would happen in one day, and they'd come in most likely kind of the same trench path here. I actually have a picture of what that looks like in the spring last year. So most likely, there you see their driveway there. They'd probably come down this way, come down there, and then they would actually screw in each of those individually. So it'd be minimal disturbance there. The other thing that would happen would be a trench, and most likely our excavator would bring in probably their mini excavator because of the spacing. And hopefully we do this all in one day as long as we can get the inspection. Trench is about, I think if they're using their mini excavator, I think it's about 1 foot wide. They'd go about 2 feet deep because the conduit has to be about 18 inches below grade. And hopefully that's closed up in one day as long as we can line up the inspections. Otherwise, it's usually done within 2 days. And then when we do the install, most likely they're not going to be able to drive down there, so they'll be carrying things down there. Any questions?
Charles, you're muted.
It looks like you're well within all of your required setbacks, and it is well screened. Looks like you have a good southern solar sky, and it seemed from the drawings that you're within the height limits for this. Is that correct?
Yes, it's at just about 9.6 feet above the ground in the back.
Okay. Any comments from the board? George?
I'll just say I think seeing it in 3 dimensions is different than seeing it in 2. And when I went by today, the topography does, as Dan was saying, really kind of hides it. And I know that we have in the ordinance, we have the special permit process for this. It certainly is something that is an important part of the sustainable master plan to increase sustainable generation of electricity. So I commend you for making this investment. And it does provide the special permit does provide some protection. So if the closest neighbor, for example, felt they needed additional screening, they would have an opportunity to share that. But it looked like there was some vegetation back there already that wouldn't, so would kind of provide some blockage to it. So thank you, Charles.
George? Anybody else? Going down the line? Okay. Well, I will make a motion. Oh, Emily?
I was just going to make the motion to forward a positive recommendation.
Okay, great. In that case, I'll second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Okay, unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next we have application of Daniel Kelleher and Frank Trapanese. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes, Trapanese.
Japanese, for property located at 40 Stetson Drive, Assessor's Tax Map R20 Lot 34, which is located in the rural residential RC zoning district for a special permit pursuant to sections 204.2, 13, 208.3 of the zoning ordinance for a kennel license to allow 4 dogs at this location. And if the applicant would like to make a presentation.
I don't have anything to share. I did submit 12 packets. I don't know if you have a copy of those.
Well, we got electronic copy, yeah. And
oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, we have 4 pet Labradors. We recently found out that we needed, when we went to register them to our puppies, that we needed the kennel license. So here we are.
All right. You have a photograph of the applicants in your package, looking up longingly.
That really did it for me, by the way.
Yeah, we weren't gonna have 4 dogs, but our 2 older dogs had a litter, and one person pulled out at the last minute, and this is our home, so
yeah. And so, I mean, I'm just looking at the photographs you have of just the general yard and the fencing and security. So it's a continuously fenced yard, and so is someone there during the day to keep the dogs company, or?
Oh yes, we both work remotely permanently. Our offices is closed, so we're always here.
24/7.
Yeah.
Great. Any comments from the board? George?
Thanks. I'll just say when I went by it, the backyard looks like puppy heaven, and the only barking I heard was coming from inside each house on either side.
Yeah, we're surrounded by dogs.
Yes.
Funny. All right. Anybody else from the board? All right. Well, I'll make this motion to forward a positive recommendation to the ZBA to allow the kenneling of 4 dogs at this property.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Second.
Any further discussion on the matter? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
How can you say no to puppies? I mean, come on.
Nays? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you. Good luck with the ZBA.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next up is the application of Roundabout Books Incorporated for property located at 85 Pierce Street, Assessor's Tax Map 82, Lot 43, which is located in the urban residential zoning district for a special permit pursuant to sections 206.1C1, 206.1E, 206.5A6, and 208.3 of the zoning ordinance in order to allow in order to change the existing non-conforming use from approximately 50% warehousing, 25% offices, and 25% fabrication to approximately 40% warehousing, 50% retail, and 10% offices, and to continue the existing non-conforming rear yard setback of 10 feet, and to allow the reduction of off-street parking from 21 to 12 spaces at this location. Is the applicant here to present?
I am Steve Flickenshaw with Tom Douglas Architects, and also the owner, Raymond Neal, is on the line as well.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
Do you guys mind if I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Okay, as you can see, of course, this is a map of Greenfield. Pierce Street is actually up here, Main Street right along here. We are located in between Chapman and Davis Street right here. And the area is zoned urban residential. This was the drawings of the site plan, existing site plan that we submitted in our packet application. As you can see, the existing brick building is a very small portion of the overall site. There's an existing gravel parking area in this area. There's a paved, it says parking, it's really more of a paved drive up to the gravel parking area. There's also a paved drive for drop-offs. There's a set of garage doors down below that we want to maintain as well. As our application listed, actually, we're trying to, specifically for the planning board, we're trying to get a reduction in parking from the required 21 spaces down to 12. If you look at your drawings, so we have, there's required is 16 actually per the parking ordinances, and we're proposing 6+1 van accessible parking space. And then for warehouse storage, there's between 4 to 5 full-time employees. So we have proposed 5 parking spaces for those employees. More than likely, it's probably going to be less than 5 employees at any one time on the site, but that will allow all the employees to park on site. So that's for a total of 12. So that's all off-street parking. Right now, the existing gravel parking area is probably around 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. So we propose to increase that by about approximately 2,000 square feet. And again, that's a gravel parking increase to keep it permeable. We really don't want to introduce any additional paved parking. So what we've done in the area right up against the building, this is currently all paved right now. So we're going to actually take that paved area out, make that landscaping, and we're going to actually take that paving area and drop it in place for an accessible van parking. So that is going to be a paved area that will allow you access up to, for some reason, I don't know why it's not showing up on my plan, but we will have an accessible ramp in the front of the building actually that will get you approximately up about 2.5 feet to the front door, which is right in this area. So we have 11 normal parking spaces and 1 van accessible parking space. The landscaping that we're proposing really for shielding for vehicles is based upon the adjacent residential properties, which is pretty much on every side of the property. We'll probably have a series of arborvitae along this area, and there are a couple large maple trees. There's an ash tree in this area that we plan on keeping, actually. I know that Ray has done a little bit more planting on site since this site plan was proposed, and trying to increase the amount of landscaping on the property. By having to increase to 21 spaces, it's a significant impact to the budget that we have to rework this project into a retail space. Ray currently has a space right now that he rents out from month to month. So he purchased this building last year, and the intent is to actually relocate from his existing space into this facility. His existing space does have retail on site. The building, with its current non-conforming use, we want to actually keep that non-conforming use, but change it from warehouse, business office, and fabrication. Mainly what we're trying to gain is the retail space, actually, and that will really make it more of a viable business for Ray and his employees. The site lighting, there is currently no site lighting on site, again, because it's a residential area. There are a couple lights directly on the building. If we're able to, we would like to keep the site lighting down to a minimum. If we need to have site lighting on site, we'd like to keep that just attached lighting to the building, the side of the building. So that's one thing we're hoping to keep. There are approximately 1 to 2 deliveries per week by a 26-foot stake truck, and all those deliveries will be down in the basement area right here, where most of the warehousing will be done, the sorting of their books. The accessible parking and customer parking will be up on the main level. Access will be through an accessible ramp up to the main floor. The main floor will house let's see right here, a children's book area. There's an existing office that we want to maintain for Ray. And in this area right here is where the main retail sales will be. There's also going to be a sales counter somewhere in this area. Right now there's 2 bathrooms, only one of which is accessible. The male bathroom is not accessible, so we're actually enlarging that to make that an accessible bathroom. There will be a vertical platform lift that's going to be installed to allow access up to the 2nd floor for customers as well. The existing loading dock, that will remain covered as well. And then there's going to be, as I mentioned, a new accessible ramp, and then there's going to be an open frame structure above that. And the reason why we don't want to cover that is we want to allow, this is the north facade. So north facade is here, east, south, and west. So we want to allow as much light into that children's book area as possible. So we don't plan on actually having a new covered area. It's going to be an open frame structure to sort of set up the main entrance as to what is the main entry of the building. Down in the basement, as I mentioned, you'll have trucks dropping off books in this area. This will actually be book sorting and storage. There's a media shipping area. These are all existing spaces. There's no new walls down below. Media sorting and storage will be in this area, and there's an existing mechanical space right here that will be maintained. Up on the 2nd floor, again, as we mentioned, there's going to be a vertical platform lift that will allow people in wheelchairs, canes, whatever, to allow access to the 2nd floor for retail sales. The second half, the building on the left actually is what we're calling the original farmhouse, and then the building on the right is really what we're calling the warehouse, where a lot of Tagarelli plumbing and heating, they had fabrication. So we're using that retail space, the retail sales actually in the existing warehouse, and up on the 2nd floor, book storage would be in the farmhouse area. There's going to be an employee break room, back area of the 2nd floor. So the 2 office areas, well, really, there's 1 office area and then 1 break room per se. If I go back to the site plan, we're about 265 feet to the intersection of Pierce and Chapman Street. So we've got, more than enough visual connection from vehicles actually coming out onto Pierce Street. or intersections, vehicles actually coming down Pier Street. We are also planning, Ray has acquired recently a bike rack that we'll be installing probably at the front of the building, roughly in this area, to allow people who are on their bikes, customers, locals, to actually access the bookstore as well, park their bikes there, lock them up if they want to. This is the existing floor plan right now for the basement. So there's really no change to this space whatsoever in the building. The first floor, as you can see, there's an existing loading dock. This is the non-accessible bathroom that I mentioned previously that we're going to expand into these two closets right here, make that an accessible space. There was an existing office area here that Tognerelli Heating and Cooling used that will become our children's book area. And this was their main warehouse storage, which we hope to use as retail sales. On the second floor again, same thing. This will be where our vertical platform lift will be located with access into what used to be warehouse storage into retail. The existing room in the back, that will become the employee break room area. So again, you can see no new walls are really planned for this area. There's an existing staircase, second means of egress, up the second floor that comes down to grade level, first floor. We have our snow storage areas that we're proposing at the back of the parking area and also at the front of the property. And I think that's probably about it.
Thanks, Stephen. Do you have any elevations of the building in that? Are you proposing a new covered area, or are you just using what's existing there?
Yeah, we're using the existing covered area. What we are doing is we're actually creating a framework, an open air framework over top of the accessible ramp. And really it's just to present as a main entrance. It will not be covered though. It's just going to be an open structure.
Like a trellis or something?
Yeah, it's probably going to be a heavy timber frame or something along that line, but let me see if I can pull up. So this is the existing building right now. So that open framework will roughly be in this area. We don't have any new elevations yet. We're trying to get through this special permit process first before spending additional monies on doing drawings and everything. But this is the general idea of what we're trying to proceed with.
Any comments from the board? I can't see people raising their hands, so feel free just to call out if you have anything.
Well, Charles, I'll thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah, George.
I'll I appreciated all the materials that were submitted, and to paraphrase Jerry Maguire, you had me at sustainable master plan. I really appreciated the connection of all your design and use details to elements of the master plan, and certainly part of that is to try to avoid unnecessary parking and to have avoid excessive impermeable surfaces. So I appreciate the sensitivity of the design, and it's grounded in some data of the use of the customer base as well as the transportation habits of the employees.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
George.
I was excited to read the sustainable plan and to see how much of it were things that I valued.
Yeah, I would agree with what George said, and also, I mean, this is a great building, and the fact that it's being purchased and going to be invested and restored and renovated to the extent necessary for this business is great. It's a opportunity for a local business to further thrive. you know, and it's you know, it's books, and so it's I think it's winning on three big counts just that way.
Wonderful.
I do know that we also had a letter of support from a neighbor as well, just, you know, just reiterating the value that Roundabout Looks brings to the community. And I think they also referenced support for the reduction of off-street parking just from their own observations of their customer base. So that was nice to see community support for their relocation and their future endeavors.
Yeah, Emily Ray had submitted a series of actually letters from abutters and neighbors in the area, actually, all in support of the project and also in a reduction of parking. Because it's a residential area, they don't want to see a massive swath of paving. They don't want to see a ton of headlights shining in their eyes actually at night.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
and the green space in front is quite pretty.
Actually, I'm sorry if I missed it, Stephen, but could you describe a little bit the planting buffer you've got going between the large parking area and the neighbors? Are those new plantings you're proposing there?
Yeah, so there's supposed to be approximately a 4-foot wide buffer of landscape planting, actually. So what we're thinking about looking into is arborvitae planted along this area. If you notice, there's a couple parking spaces right here at parking space number 1 and 2. There's an existing garage actually right there, so I don't have any arborvitae planted right in that location, just because the neighbor's house is over here, and to me, I'm thinking it's already shielded actually from their house. If the planning board would, prefer actually having plantings along the full length of the parking area, we can do that as well.
More plants are,
Always
the more buffer, the better, I would say. So if the applicant's willing to offer that, I don't think we would say no.
Right. I mean, we would never say no to more plants, right, Charles? But I think that what currently is proposed is very much, like George said, in line with the master plan.
True.
Right.
So
just perhaps the orthographic imagery that's available on suggests it looks like some sort of large maple tree next to the garage, which, unless that has died, been cut down, or fallen over, we might not be able to plant anything there if it still exists.
Yeah, that was the other reason why I was trying to keep plantings away from there. That maple tree is still there too.
Okay.
That has been maintained. I find that we've the neighbor on that side contacted me about a week after we purchased the property, and the branch, the far branch that's coming over the garage was removed by Jim's tree service at her request. So this Google Maps image that you're seeing here is out of date, and the tree is healthy now.
This is a little bit of an echo on what Charles and George said, but I applaud you in the reuse of a non-conforming use of this building. I think that that's a model that we, as residents of Greenfield, should look to. Reuse what we've got. And it doesn't seem like you're doing a whole lot to change the building, which, hopefully structurally, knock on wood, you don't need to. So yeah, hats off there.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have enough? Eric, do we have any correspondence on this particular project that we should read into we should be paying attention to here?
There are review comments from the fire prevention officer, engineering superintendent, board of health, all with no issues or comments.
Okay.
And the ZBA did receive 6 letters from abutters, all definitely in support of this project. And that's it for comments.
Great, thank you.
All right, so motion to support a positive recommendation to the ZBA.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? The ayes have it. Okay,
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
thank you. Okay. Next up, application of Katrina Pacheco, RA, Pacheco Ross Architects PC, on behalf of the City of Greenfield for property located at 10 and 12 Coombs Avenue, 33 and 35 and 39 Main Street, which is located in the Central Commercial Zoning District, for a variance and site plan approval pursuant to sections 208.4, 208.7 zoning ordinance, in order to reduce the 8-foot landscape buffer requirement along Coombs Avenue to 0, and to reduce the required open space from 15% for new development to 7% at this location. Is the applicant here to present, or the applicant's representative?
Yes, hello, I'm Katrina Pacheco of Pacheco Ross Architects, representing the City of Greenfield on behalf of the Fire Department. I also have with me on the call John Allard and Dan Delaney from Fuss & O'Neill, our civil engineers. And thank you, Dan, and thank you, John, for attending. And they will also be speaking about the project. I will just give a general overall project description. John, if you can pull up the colored site plan that you showed me earlier, that would be great.
Sure. I'm going to share my screen right now.
Okay, so I believe most of you, if not all of you, have the packets in front of you that describe the project. This is the permanent station that's been under design for quite some time. You know, with the move of the fire department to the temporary location, we need to wrap this up so that they can get in the building. But the important part of this is it's central to the city. It's a great location with access, but it is very tight on the site. As you can see, the brown area in the middle here, and I do want to comment, north is up on this plant. You've got Main Street going across the top there, and Coombs Ave on the left edge, which is pretty much a dead end street abutting I believe it's the Ford dealership on that side. So in general, in terms, the layout of it is that the main entrance for pedestrians and visitors is off of Main Street, where there's a new driveway access. There will be bicycle accommodations right at that front entrance. There are ADA parking spaces, and we're getting ready, preparing the plans to be EV ready, so that 2 spaces near the entrance, if there's good grant money available, EV charging station could be put there. I'll get into the building plan in a little bit, but you can see what's called administrative offices, so the public offices, and then the bunk area for the firefighters is located towards the front of the building. And then the midsection that's a little bit skinnier, that has the day room, the kitchen area, exercise room, and then support spaces for the apparatus bays, which are at the southern end of the site. So what you see, kind of the large parking, not parking, paved areas to the right and left of the apparatus bays, those are the response pathways. So the vehicles coming out of the bays will be heading east and coming out onto Main Street. And they will be returning into the bays along Coombs Ave. So that is a return pathway. As you can see in the lower left-hand corner of the site, because the building had to shrink due to budget concerns, some vehicles may need to be put into a secondary building. It would be vehicular storage only. And we're proposing that get built there if there is enough money in the bid process. What you see are also parking spaces, and I think before I get into the architectural part of it, I'd like John to talk about landscaping, parking, stormwater, traffic, etc.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Katrina. My name is John Allard. I'm with Boston O'Neill at 1550 Main Street in Greenfield. Katrina went over a little bit of the site layout. I'd like to pull it back and just go over the location once. Again, Main Street is to the north, Coombs to the west. This is an older aerial image that shows what was once a part of the site. If you drive by it today, it'll look completely different because the residential buildings, garages, greenhouses, they have all been demolished, and what is left is just some small little pavement areas. We are in the central commercial district, adjacent to Athens Pizza and there's a little convenience market there, and a residential building right here. As Katrina said, most of the traffic to the site emergency-wise will be coming in from Coombs and leaving onto Main Street. We do have visitor parking within this area, about 13 parking spaces, and another parking area to the rear, about 7 parking spaces, and 5 to the southwest. Drainage on the site, really the topography works from north to south here, so all your stormwater runoff is coming from the top of the site to the back of the site. We are showing some underground infiltration chambers on both sides of the building, east and west. Utilities for the site, we are bringing in city water along this easement. There's an access easement to the side. We're bringing in city water from there. We are splitting the sanitary, so pretty much the front half of the building will go to Main Street and the rear half out to Coombs. We're doing this because bringing in, for separation reasons, bringing in water, and if we were to bring out sanitary through that easement, it's too close. So we are bringing out the sanitary to Coombs. Lighting on the site, I'm sure Katrina will go over some of the lighting, but it's mainly on the building itself, full cutoff, night sky compliant. Traffic, there's anticipated traffic to this site. There were somewhere around 3,000 emergency calls last year, and so those are anticipated trips. There's also 10 to 15 visitor trips per day as well. For the landscape, one of the variances that we are requesting is to reduce the landscape buffer along Coombs Avenue here. I believe the requirement is 8 feet along any city road. We have less than 1 foot on Coombs Ave, but as Katrina mentioned earlier, Coombs Ave is a dead end, pretty much right at the property boundary down here. So not many vehicles or pedestrians down this way. I mentioned earlier that there is a residential home right here. We have a landscape buffer in between the parking area. Front of the building, we're showing a salvaged cupola from the old fire station with some nice landscape frontage. Three existing trees will remain on the street. There is going to be one removed for the new entry drive, and a light pole will need to be moved as well as part of that. Along the parking spaces, the visitor parking spaces, there's a long line of 6-foot wide planting bed, and within the parking areas themselves, we elected to use smaller, more upright trees for safety purposes, just because you have these big vehicles pulling in and out, and we wanted to make sure sight lines are adequate. I think the last thing I would like to mention is just the snow storage areas. The temporary snow storage areas are going to be to the rear of the site and to the kind of rear of the parking bays. This is just a temporary solution until it is able to be picked up and brought off site. I believe that's it. Katrina, if you want to.
Yes, if you could pull up the architectural sheets that I sent along, that should have been in the package. So if you go back up to the cover sheet just very quickly, that was a rendering with some temporary colors applied. And this is looking from Main Street towards the southwest, and you can see the main entrance with some flag poles in front and a bike rack just to the right of the main entrance. And then the windows along the left side are conference room, bunk rooms, etc. And then you can see in the back the apparatus bay doors, which are the large doors. So if we go down to the color plan that was provided, you can see a little bit of the site layout very similar. In this case, north is to the right on this page, so Main Street is on the right side, and Coombs is off the page on the top. But to explain what's happening in the building, the main entrance is closest to Main Street and the front parking, which is the highest point on site. The building is actually sunk into the grade a little bit at that point to help us across the site. There's quite a bit of a drop, and I'll mention a ramp inside the building in a moment. But once you go in the front door, there's a vestibule, a conference room. Anything that's blue is really kind of public area, including a large training room, meeting room, and a museum on the west side, top of the page, where some of the antique apparatus and artifacts from the fire department will be displayed. And my understanding from the chief is that they've got a whole group kind of working on that right now. So there's a lot of material that can be placed there. Then there will be a secure door going into the administrative offices, which is the purple area. So the chief's office, the secretary, etc., the staff there will inhabit those spaces, their offices. The yellow spaces that are kind of in the middle of the building, those are bathrooms, mechanical and electrical spaces, a laundry space, the bathrooms off of the public hallway for public use when the building is open for visitors. Then on the green, in the green area, that is the bunkers suite, if you will. That is private area. So this is where we have officer bunks and the firefighter bunks rooms with their bathrooms, single user bathrooms and laundry area, which connects then to the orange area, which is the kitchen and day room, dining and exercise room area that supports the entire station. You know, these are spaces meant for the firefighters throughout the day, whether they're just doing a desk job and need to eat lunch, or they're sleeping there overnight. As you continue to the left, there is a ramp that takes you down about, I think 20, I'm trying to remember how many inches it is. 32 inches, there we go. From the upper area to the bay floor. Right at the bottom of the ramp, there's a door that goes out, so that's one of the exit pathways, but it also has a door right into the base, so there's a protected, mostly level pathway into the base. So if you think of what they used to have in the old station, which was bunkers on the second floor, had come down poles or downstairs, here it's a level, mostly level transition, walkable. And as you can see, the red areas are the bays. We have a rough representation of the vehicles sitting in the bays. And the yellow areas around that are the support spaces, the radio room, their mechanics workroom, EMS storage, places for them to clean themselves, clean their gear, the decon laundry room, and a turnout gear storage room so that they have separation from the bay area. SCBA is the self-contained breathing apparatus room where they've got a compressor to put air into their tanks and a little bit of outdoor storage off the back. What we didn't say about the site on the back side was that there's also a generator on site, and that's part of what pushes the parking on that side closer to Coombs Avenue, and hence, becomes the reason we're looking for that relief on that side. If we go to the elevation sheet, then you can see some of what the building is looking like. Again, this is kind of very orthographic, straight on. The main entrance to the left side of the north elevation there, and there is signage proposed along there. I think in the packets it described the signage in terms of height and placement on the front. We do have address called out. We do have what the building is, so it's pretty obvious. If we go to the east, I think it's on the top. Towards the back, there would be an emblem. Sorry, to the left, yeah. There's an emblem, and this is the Maltese cross, symbol of fire departments pretty much everywhere. And this would be like an aluminum sign that gets applied to the masonry. And then similarly on the west side, I think it might be on the other page, facing west, so facing the Ford dealership, but visible from Main Street as you're coming uphill into there would be another Maltese cross. So it would be visible from a distance. This is pretty far back from the road. I'm trying to think how many 100 feet it might be from the front of from Main Street. So at that size and at that distance, it's something visible and says fire station. So in terms of signage, I think that was it. As John was explaining, the lighting for the project is on the building. As you can see, there are small lights located on the west side, first along that 10-foot easement. To light that way, because that does get used as people go around the backside of the pizza place. And then at the bays, it's a little bit higher that they are mounted on the building, but that's because they've got to shine farther into the parking area, over and around the generator, and at the bay doors for the vehicles that are returning. If you go back up to the other page, we can show the front. At the front, there are also going to be lights at the lettering, kind of pointing down. That's what the bar is over the top of the lettering. And then there would be smaller, almost carriage lights, similar to what was on the demolished fire station, but again, to evoke what it is in the community. So on the east side, which is on the top of the page there, again, similar to the west side, towards the front, the lights are lower, again, covering the parking area, but not going too far. And then when you're at the apparatus bays, they are a little bit higher, throwing to cover the response area. There would be no lighting off the south side of the building. That's towards the railroad tracks, and there's actually I have to step back. There would be lighting there, but it would only be motion sensor and on photocell.
Anything else that you want me to share, or do you want to just?
I think that was pretty much it. That was all I could think of at the moment.
I think that was very well done.
Thank you, Katrina. That was really thorough. Answered a lot of my questions already, so thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, and I think someone was trying to speak, but he was muted.
That was me, of course, Charles. Yeah, just a couple things. I mean, if you could go back to the elevations because we were just there. I think it might be helpful if you could just describe the materials that are there because you have keynotes, but it's hard to tell exactly what the materials are and sort of what the colors are. There's some shading variations going on, and maybe just a little bit of a tour of the materials description.
Sure, absolutely. So I think you can all see the roof is a shingle type of roof. It's not a metal roof at this point. That's that upper area because that is a sloped roof that's got a gable end to it. But down below the roof edge, what you're seeing in a couple of different shading patterns is architectural concrete masonry units, ACMU. So it's a concrete block, but can come in lots of colors. When I showed, or when John showed the cover sheet, which was the first sheet in this group, it showed kind of a red and limestone looking CMU color. Now we have not finalized the colors yet with the building committee, but the different shadings that you see on there are meant to indicate it's a different color. And then there are some patterns within there. So you go from a rough cut CMU that's called split face to some that are smooth, some that are scored so that they look similar to brick. They've got a little more, they've got a cut in the face. We've got at the entrance and at the museum and on the side of the museum openings with row lock block going across, and they're cut to look a lot like brick. The keystones that are going in there, we're hoping that we can reuse the keystones that were at the former fire station and put them above those. And we're also trying to reuse one of the windows. We don't know if it'll survive the whole transition, but we are intending to do that if we can. We'll get to the construction phase for that. But in general, the materials are that architectural CMU all the way around the building at different heights depending on the scale of what's happening at the building. So John, if you show the east elevation, which is right above there. Okay, so at the front of the building, close to Main Street, which is on our right-hand side, it's a lower scale. You've got and it's all single story here. It's, you know, the conference room, the bunk rooms, it's a lower area. Your lights are lower. You've got a shingle roof. We got some louver dormers up on the roof. As we transition kind of downhill towards the south, we've got low slope roofs with a little bit of overhang, but still the same architectural CMU. And we might actually jump it up a little bit. Usually when we get to the bays, we make the bottom layer a little bit taller because the doors are larger. So in terms of scaling, we've got a bit of height there, and I think it's 28'4" if you can zoom into the middle there. In terms of the height, the peak of the roof there, it's under 30 feet, but you're at the back of the building, it's downhill, so it seems smaller because it's farther away from the street. But it does get up there. The center portion there between what you see are D and E, which are column lines in the building. There is a mezzanine, and I don't think that showed out on the color floor plan, but the mezzanine is an open space between the two sides of the bay. On the ground floor level, it's the radio room, the workspace, but then there's stairway going up to training area. There will be like a manhole opening so that they can train doing confined space. They'll be able to hang hose to dry and store some items.
I guess while you're on this page, if you could just scroll up a little bit to the floor plan. So all the fire trucks are exiting out into that area, and that's sort of like the truck radius, the turning radius for the ladder trucks, or
That is correct.
your most severe condition.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and
And
you
then
can see how close it gets us to the property line.
right. Yeah. So you've got all your guest parking lining up along the emergency sort of route for trucks leaving the fire station, and that's presumably a two-way street. So
It is.
cars could be, it's possible cars could be entering and exiting that that area to reach that parking at the same time the trucks are trying to make an emergency sort of exit. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts were about sort of that um, that sort of dynamic.
Sure. Thank you for asking the question. In discussions with the chief, he's looking for working with the city to perhaps install a blinking light or some other kind of device along Main Street that warns the passersby, not just pedestrians, but the vehicular traffic, without putting a stoplight on Main Street for vehicles exiting. The opening is wide enough. Yes, I think we're at 24 feet, John. Okay, which allows for the two-way traffic in that area. So yes, theoretically, someone could be coming in and parking, and there's a truck kind of coming out. I think most people will see when they're driving because they have to see that there's a vehicle coming and they'll get out of the way as much as possible, as quickly as possible. But at the street interface, that's a great question. The desire is to work with the city about what can be put in the right of way there without it being a stoplight.
Okay. So you don't see a conflict where somebody's backing out of one of those spaces at the same time a truck's trying to exit and get out of there.
They'll honk.
Yeah, they will.
They will. But we don't have much of a choice. There are no other places to put people. Right. We wanted to make sure that they were close to the front in the main entrance as much as possible. But we couldn't count on Main Street parking or anything else. That's not viable.
All right, well, thank you. So is that concludes your presentation for now? We can.
I believe so. If you have any questions, please ask.
Yeah, I mean, those are my two main questions. Does the folks on the board have any questions?
Just one item again with the trucks. You had mentioned they would be coming down Coombs Ave and parking in the garage. It looks as though a portion of the fleet is going to need to enter by way of Main Street because there is no access to the back of, or I should say, the west side of the building. Is that correct?
That is correct. So as you can see on the back side of the building, the west, which is the top, there are only two doors for that drive-through, and we've provided for the longest, most acute turning that the longest truck can do. So the bays on the far left, or the bay on the far left, which is far south, those vehicles will have to back in. So they've got a bit of coming in, turning around, and so forth, which is why the apron, the pavement in front of the bays on the east is pretty much all the way to the property line. They have to come in and turn around, yes. And the ones on the right-hand side of the yellow strip in the middle, those as well. They're shorter vehicles, though.
Yeah. So for those vehicles on the left-hand bay, they've got to sort of come in and then back up, and then that's going to be like a 4-point turn to sort of back into that space, right?
Yes, and the chief is aware of this, and he knows that depending on which vehicles he's using for response, he has to do a bit of jockeying.
Are there columns in those bay spaces, or are those all clear span bays?
Those are clear span. Yes, so essentially you have the large shed roof kind of facing south on the left side there from the mezzanine and support spaces in the middle. That's one large span. And then on the right-hand side, on the north bays, it's a lower but still clear span. Oh, I forgot to mention that we are working with, now this doesn't involve site plan necessarily, but we are working with Eversource to look at incentives for the building. And some of that involves being PV ready with that south face slope. So we're putting in a conduit and raceway and so forth so that if at some point solar panels can be put on that roof, we're ready.
Well, I guess while we're on this one sheet, because it's got a little more detail than the site plan, it's a little easier to read. Could you just point out again the two areas where we're looking for variances? Yeah,
Right.
so right
So
along there.
yes, right along there, the parking edge, and again, this is so that the responder parking, which is in that back area, they have a place to park, but they've also got the way for the vehicles returning to pull through. And the generator you can see is tucked up against the building, so it's not near the house.
Right. And then there's that sort of sidewalk area that goes from Main Street down to.
Oh, are you talking about kind of in the center?
Yeah, that's the other that's the buffer zone we're looking at?
That's the right of way that we can't do anything with.
Right.
Correct. Yep.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, that's the driveway access to the back of the building as well.
Right, and that's where the water service will come into the building.
Yeah.
So that's not where the variance is. The variance is for the buffer zone along Coombs Avenue, and then is it the setback along the lower edge there? Is that where the other variance is coming in?
No,
I'm sorry.
no problem. The other variance is for the open space requirement.
Open space, right? That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and I think we're at about 7%, and the requirement is 15.
But you've managed to handle all the stormwater. Okay.
Yeah, within the infiltration chambers. Yep.
Okay. Anybody else from the board with any comments or questions?
Yeah, please, Charles. Thanks. I appreciate you anticipated one of my questions about it being solar ready. So thank you for mentioning that. And I want to get a little more clarity on the potential garage, separate garage in the back. I'm trying to picture where that would be. Could you help me picture that?
Yes, so on this plan, it's where the cursor is in the intent.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of in that southwest corner. We're not sure exactly of the configuration of it. We're waiting to find out something about an adjacent piece of land, but not at liberty to talk about it. But the intent is that because of the anticipated cost of this project, we can't afford having a larger main building. So some of the vehicles that the chief needs to park on site would be in that back building. So this is intended to be a separate kind of pre-engineered piece that gets set on a foundation in that southwest corner, but for vehicle storage only.
Thank you. And I guess I'll ask one more thing. I had the same question you did, Charles, about the flow of traffic on the east side, but I wondered about the west side as well, because the trucks will be coming in there, and it's potentially that's two-way as well on Coombs, so someone could be coming out, but there's there'll be sufficient room for accommodate a car in one of the vehicles.
I believe so. John, do you have your other site plan that you had up? Right, so Coombs Avenue, I believe, is wide enough, like you're saying, for both vehicles. So two-way traffic on Coombs, yes.
Okay, Thank
but
you.
not anticipating to have much traffic with just
Right.
the one residence there.
Well, I meant it would be also for the parking for
Yes.
in the back there for staff as well.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
You're welcome.
There'll be a little choreography involved, but it's probably low volume. Anybody else? David, any comments?
No, you covered what I had wanted to ask about very nicely, but good presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Emily and Natty, are you all set?
I just want to say, you know, in a very tight budget, in a very restricted space, great job. That this is not an easy task to put everything that our fire department needs in such a short amount of time while keeping a budget on the front of your brain and trying to squeeze everything into, you know, you're trying to really thread a needle here, and my hat's off to you.
Thank you.
And also having lots of architectural input from the community.
It's been great. I do applaud the building committee for stating their minds.
Well, good. So it seems like we're essentially ready to. We don't really have any recommendations for the ZBA other than the overall project as a whole, I believe. So, anybody care to make a motion to that effect?
Motion to forward a positive recommendation.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Okay, the ayes have it. So this was a good dry run for your ZBA meeting. Good luck with them. They're a good group.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everybody for hanging on so late today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next order of business is approval not required A&R plan endorsement for a lot at 446 Country Club Road submitted by Peter Guzmeskis et al. Let me see if I can bring this up.
Hey guys, I have a client who's tried to call me 4 times, so I need to just check in on that really
Okay.
quick. So
Right,
I will be right back.
Okay, sure. I will take this time to make a disclosure statement that my sister-in-law is the daughter of one of the Kosmeskis siblings. Her father passed away, but I do have a connection with the Kosmeskis family, and it's not going to impact my my ability to participate. But I just wanted to state that for the record. Well, I guess there's not. I've been making everybody wait. You know, let's just move on here. I'm going to bring the A&R up. Let's see. Got to get the right one here. Folks. Try this again. Okay, is the plan on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is this little location map here kind of gives you a sense of where we are. We're right under the as you're going down Country Club Road. There's that railroad overpass here. You take that little dog leg to the right, and this is the overall piece of property we're talking about is in this general area. And this is the piece, I believe, correct me, Eric, if I'm wrong, but that's the piece that is represented here
Correct.
in this A&R submission. So there's the adequate frontage between this point and this point for the lot here, and then there's frontage for an access for this lot here, parcel A, and so everything's in order for this. Eric, are you available for a comment here?
Yes, so in order for an A&R plan to be endorsed by planning board, it has to meet the criteria under the Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, 81P, and so it must meet the frontage requirements of the district in which it's located, all buildable lots. In this case, the two lots do have the required 200 feet of frontage. One has 205 and the other has quite a bit more than that along Country Club Road. And then there has to be practical access to the lots through the frontage, which they do through Country Club Road. So this A&R plan meets the two criteria required for the planning board to endorse the A&R plan.
Right, and it's not really a discretionary process. We're required by Mass General Law to evaluate the A&R for those essential criteria: frontage and access, and then what any potential uses for that property are really not part of the discussion for us.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Okay. So there's everything here appears to be in order.
Charles?
George?
Yes, please. Thank you. Eric, I've been a bit confused by this because I see, because you're talking about the 205 feet, and I see the to the left of the drawing, there's a 55-foot right there. Thank you. And it looks like that's the property line there. So I'm not quite understanding.
Yeah, the pin that is shown there that has the label iron pin down 1 inch laying flat, that is the approximate boundary of the A&R of the APR, the agricultural preservation restriction that's on the overall property. So it's not a property line there, it's the edge of the APR.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, that was confusing me too. But it's all one parcel. Part of it's in
Correct.
APR and part of it isn't. And so
okay.
And so, this little section here, there's 200 feet is the required frontage in the RC. This is the RC zone, right, Eric?
That's correct.
So 200 feet of frontage is required, and so there's 150 feet here, and they're giving themselves 55 feet to get over the line of 200 to 205 feet for the required frontage for this portion of the property.
And if I can follow up, the small line to the far left, is that the property line where it shows the
right here?
Yes, that is the property line. That's correct.
Okay. I didn't. The fine print is sometimes hard to detect on some of these things. So, because it did say in note number 5 on the lower left that the remaining land is a buildable lot, and I wasn't seeing where there was sufficient frontage. So that's what confused me. Okay.
Right. Any questions from the board or comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to assume that 205 feet widens out to be greater than that based on the angle of the proposed actual border of the property on the south end. But I know we had talked about this a few months ago when we did a site plan review of a flag lot. And we needed to make sure that the distance of that portion of the parcel that had frontage was the same all the way back. And I think it was 50 feet, if I'm not mistaken. I can only assume that 205 is continuous or greater, but I don't see that here.
Yeah, I can sort of bring up the see if I can find it here. I can
Right,
bring
because
it
we
up.
only have the start of the property line there on the
Right.
left.
Right. So I think what I think I've got it here. Let me do a new share. Stop sharing. New share. So here's the railroad. You know, here's the underpass here. This is the dog leg up. This is the parcel that's being A&R'd off, and this is that little section of frontage you were just mentioning, Natty. So this is the APR boundary line right here. So they're taking 55 feet and creating an actual property line that will extend here to just about looks like it's to just about the extent of like this wetland area, and it's going to sort of follow that edge of the field. It appears to me anyway. So there is frontage, continuous frontage.
Right, because that small portion actually goes further to the south that of the actual property line.
Right.
Okay. It's confusing when it's laid out this way with the APR. It's yeah.
Yeah, but it's basic criteria.
Now I'm trying to make the connection between, Charles, what you just had up and this plan. And while I can see the boundary of the neighbor's property on the south side, I don't see that in what is being proposed. I don't know if that it would be grounds for us to question, this plan at all. But I see that as, I don't feel like I can make a reasonable decision on this because I honestly don't know where the property line is. I don't know what the distance is at the back of the property to the edge of the proposed new parcel. I can only assume that it meets the requirements if that was going to be the egress.
Well, I think that it's just, so this is a survey put together by a licensed surveyor. They've done the research, with the Registry of Deeds to put this together. They've laid it all out. They've given us the background from, the base information that they use to create the survey from. So, in all A&Rs, we have to assume the professionalism of the people putting the documents together. George?
Yeah, I appreciate you showing what you did, Charles, because that shows some data seemingly that's not on this document. And as Natty was referencing, we had something that was put together, I'm not sure how long ago it was, where it turned out it actually didn't meet the A&R requirements. And I know you had astutely caught that. And so they withdrew that and then came back with a revised plan that did meet the requirements. So I don't want to question anyone's competence or capabilities, but I know we're supposed to make an independent judgment based on data that is provided to us. And this I appreciate the clarification about the APR bond line, and my bad for not, seeing that that's what that line was designated as. But the actual property line is just this little stub of it, and so without your showing that other view, that would make it less certain of what the dimensions of the property line were in relation to the proposed A&R portion, parcel A.
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, I recall the previous situation where there was an A&R plan on a flag lot. And Natty's question was, you know, the depth of the frontage needs to go back until the front of this proposed structure. So the picture you brought up clearly shows that that is met by that, even though it doesn't show it on the A&R plan itself. It's not required to be shown on the plan, but the additional information you did show clearly shows that it meets that depth of requirement going to the structure. Keep in mind that the house is already on, that they're adding land to this property, so they're actually increasing it and not taking away from the house lot itself. They're actually adding frontage to it.
Right. I'll just bring that up one more time so folks can see it. This is the house here. This is that property line that's 150 feet currently, and it's again, it's not really. This isn't this is a distance from the property, the corner of the property line to an APR designation. This isn't actually a property line here.
Right.
So the entirety of the lot is all of this.
Yeah, that's helpful because and it had to go past the APR line to give that 200 feet to back to the structure. So, got it.
Right.
And if that is in fact one lot, I was looking at this as two. That does clarify.
Right. Yeah, that was the mistake that I made too in looking at this. But we actually spoke with the surveyor and clarified that's an APR line, not a property line.
Well, Charles, unless other board members have more questions, given that clarification, I'm open to making an motion to the planning board to endorse this A&R.
Second.
Any further discussion? I would like to, Eric, we received a correspondence from Mr. Norman in which he requested that it be entered into the record with the A&R. Is that something? And I believe other members of the planning board were copied on it. Is that something that we can do, or is it appropriate, or what's your recommendation for that?
That is up to your discretion, Mr. Chairman, but it is it doesn't really change the fact that it meets two criteria and you have no choice but to endorse the plan, but you can definitely read it into the record.
I didn't think I would read it. I might just acknowledge that it was.
Acknowledge it? Yes, sir.
Because it's a long document and well thought out, but it's in many ways it's more applicable to, I think, the conversation that's going to be happening at the public hearing, the coming public hearing, than the A&R procedure here. So
I agree.
Okay, Al, I see you raising your hand, and if I let anybody speak, if I let one person speak, I have to let everybody speak. And so, because this is a perfunctory process, I think I'm going to let the public hearing be the opportunity for folks to talk. And I know that there's people have a lot of concerns, and I respect and appreciate that. And I think that that's going to be the opportunity for folks to discuss this.
Point of information.
Sure.
My document that I submitted challenges the notion that this is perfunctory because the applicant said this plan is not a subdivision. So how do you make a plan that is not a subdivision, how do you give it an exemption from the subdivision ordinance? It's not a subdivision, and doesn't show a subdivision.
Mr. Chairman,
Eric?
that's precisely why it's called an approval not required plan, because it's stating it is not a subdivision. And the Commonwealth of Massachusetts being the only state in the union that allows such a thing called an A&R. It is in Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81P. So look that up. And
I did, thank you.
okay,
I'm just want to say that this, you know, if you're waiving, if you're saying that this is not a subdivision, then it would automatically not apply for subdivision regulation. So anybody.
And Al, so this is exactly why your arguments are going to be appropriate for the public hearing and not for this current situation here.
Why is it not appropriate?
Because this isn't a public hearing for you to speak at.
That's a technical answer, but it doesn't address my points.
All right, Mr. Chairman. So are we ready for a motion on this issue at hand?
Well, so a motion's been put forward and seconded.
ready for a vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Thank you, Eric.
Endorsing the A&R?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? George?
No, I said aye.
Okay. Abstentions?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, George, go ahead.
I wanted to make a motion for the chair to endorse the A&R, or to sign the A&R on behalf of the full board.
Seconded.
Okay. All right. All right. Any further discussion on that matter? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstentions? Nays? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Any board staff reports?
I just got the letter from the mayor's office for the construction committee, so I'll be sworn in next week.
Oh, good for you. Keep us posted on everything.
I will.
Yeah. George?
Yeah, just a further update about the Sustainable Greenfield Master Plan Implementation Committee. We did have a great presentation on the housing issue from Susan Wergoftik at the last meeting. We are still hoping actually in June to have Mark Maloney speak about the CPA and the Community Preservation Committee. And at this next month in May, we're hoping to have Mary Ciccone, I think that's pronounced right, talk about tree issues. So we're trying to have frequent speakers. It really kind of fleshes out and enhances the committee's appreciation of various issues that are covered in the master plan.
Great. Thank you. That's it for board and staff reports. Our next, we have a public hearing May 10th, and that's going to be hosted by the EDC, and that is going to be a WebEx meeting. So I think that's at 6 o'clock, Eric?
Correct.
Yeah. So everybody, we'll look forward to that. We'll look forward to that. Yeah, it'll be a good one. And then we have our following second meeting in May, the 22nd, I believe. So
21st.
21st. So we'll be seeing more of each other in the next couple of weeks.
Wait a minute, isn't it the
19th?
19th.
Sorry about that. 19th.
But today's the 5th.
Right.
14 is 19. Yes.
19.
Yeah. How many planning board members does it take to add 14?
It takes more than one, that's for sure. Anyway, thank you for your work tonight, everybody. I think we got through a big agenda, and I think it was good work. So thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.